One day, after a big crisis in Argentina, I decided that that would be my opportunity to create for the first time a company that would challenge the status quo of how to mix engineering with design, with innovation in a single place, how to bring that knowledge for the first time from Latin America into the developed world.
Martin, it's a pleasure to have you as my guest. Welcome to the J-Curve.
Thank you very much, Olga, for receiving me. A pleasure, a big pleasure.
Thank you for being with me today here in New York. I obviously did a huge homework while preparing, and I was thinking about how can we actually put this all in a little bit over an hour of conversation. But I want to start with asking you about what were and are the most important stages of your professional and personal growth that you think have contributed the most to getting to where you are in life today, and maybe touch a little bit on the foundational story of Globant as well.
I think I may start in my early youth when I'm the older son of a mid-class family. My mother is an English teacher, my father is an engineer, and my father has been an entrepreneur his whole life. And I've seen within my family how starting companies is, how to go and try to conquer the world. My father, during his initial, stages of his career as an entrepreneur, used to sell a lot of fabrics from Argentina to Europe, to Italy, and to Poland, and to many, many countries in Europe. And then he expanded that into Latin America, into the US. So at home, the fact of going to do something to conquer a space which was unoccupied by that specific piece of offer was like the religion, right? And I breathed that kind of culture until I was 20. And when I was 20, my father got broke. So the whole family needed to start all over again. And it was a very interesting moment because at the same time it was very painful, but it was like a big lesson on which are the things that were right, which are the things that were wrong, how to focus, how to become less dependent on a third party, more dependent on your own brand. That was kind of the formation of me as an entrepreneur. I was studying engineering at that time, and I remember I started very early paying my studies selling colored papers. So I used to buy white paper, then the Pantone inks, and then I paint the papers, and I was going to every single I don't know how to say. It's those places where you can buy pencils and papers and so forth for the school. And so I went to every single store of those, and I was selling my color papers to take and create photocopies and make beautiful photocopies that were black and white, but now it were yellow and white and black, or red and black. So that was kind of my first
Endeavor
entrepreneurial stuff. When I finished my career and given I became an engineer, and given how bad luck my father had, I said, I will never start a company. So I started working on YPF, on a big petroleum company in Argentina. Then I started working for other companies. But the funny part of the story that gene of making companies was not about to go away. I was just trying to get more experience and to understand. And the beautiful part is, like, I'm an electronic engineer, but all my career has been around how to do things on the software space. On YPF, when I arrived there, they said, oh, well, you're an electronic engineer, so it's very probable that you will know about how to do technology and how to do networks and how to do technology systems and systems for recording, purchases, so on and so forth. And I say, yes, of course. So we started working on that, learning about that. After I left YPF, I worked for a couple of companies on the professional service space. And then 10 years after I started my professional career, I decided that I would put in practice everything that I learned, at home. And basically, that learning was really how to challenge the status quo of everything that you see. Why opportunities for the young people in Argentina are not happening. Why young people in Argentina are leaving to grab opportunities in Europe or in the US. Why nobody is creating technology from Latin America to the world. Why nobody's doing that? Why everybody's trying to focus on the local market? Why do we need to think about just the Argentinian market and not about the US market or the European market? And why everybody is creating such a crappy systems? Nobody can create something which is looking good, with good design, with good engineering, everything packed in a single concept. And that's how one day, after a big crisis in Argentina, I decided
yet another one.
Yes, yet another one. And that was a good observation. Well, it's not a good observation, it's general knowledge, I would say. So I decided that would be my opportunity. That would be my opportunity to create for the first time a company that would challenge the status quo of everything that we were doing, or how to mix engineering with design, with innovation in a single place, how to bring that knowledge for the first time from Latin America into the developed world. Indeed, our first customer was lastminute.com in London. How to do that with local talent, but not just in the big cities, also go into small cities. So when we won our project with Google back in 2006, by the way, we were the first company that developed software outside the Googleplex in Silicon Valley. Instead of taking it to Buenos Aires, we took it to Tandil, a very small city, 250 kilometers away from Buenos Aires, with just 120,000 people, but a big university. So we started developing that software from Tandil instead of from Buenos Aires, and we discovered that suddenly everybody wanted to go back to their hometowns to be able to leave Buenos Aires and open Globant in Tandil, open Globant in Córdoba, open Globant in La Plata, open Globant as we have now in 15 cities in Argentina. And not just that, then we went into Uruguay, we did the same. In Colombia, we did the same. In Mexico, we did the same. In Chile, we did the same. In Peru, we did the same. In every single country, we do the same. So Globant is a collection of innovations, a collection of thinking different, how to do things in every single step. So when you see it a little bit back with a little bit more perspective, you will get a company now with 28,000 people present in 35 different countries, public in the New York Stock Exchange back in 2014.
It was the first software company from LatAm.
The first software company from LatAm to do it ever. That is essentially being recognized as the company that has reinvented the professional service space. Look, when you see the automotive space, you see the normal players and then you see Tesla, right? When you see the professional service space and the technology creation space, you see the normal players and then you see Globant. This is exactly what we are doing for the professional service space. This is exactly what we do in terms of how we want to create things for our customers. At Globant, we don't believe on having one CEO and then all the rest doing what that guy is saying. We believe exactly on the opposite. We believe on having agile pods, which are on the top of a pyramid, connected with the customers, having hundreds of degrees of autonomy between the pods and the customers. And then all of us out on the bottom, helping those pods to be successful and not the other way around. And then we believe that to create technology, you need to know about technology and how that technology can be applied into different industries. But the real knowledge are studios. This is how we pack our knowledge at Globant. This is another big differentiating factor that we reinvented, for the industry. And then we believe that AI, as we are talking today, and in the last months about AI a lot. But at Globant, we started talking about AI 8 years ago. And we started creating our AI studio, our tools to code faster, to test faster, to recruit faster, to connect people with projects faster, using AI like no other company in the sector. So from my early youth to what we have today, it's a repeated story about challenging what you see and challenging everything that is considered to be the norm in every single interaction that we had.
So the agile pods, this is something that Globant is very well known for. This is something that was reflected in several case studies written about Globant. How did you come up with that? How did you come up with all these corporate innovations that you integrated to make sure that the company stays relevant through the years?
Look, I could say that I woke up one morning and I had the bright idea, but it would be false. Because the right idea is about something that we do every morning, which is to wake up, hopefully, and to try to listen to what's going on and try to listen to our people. All the ideas that I mentioned on the AI space are all ideas that got brought by our own people, saying, hey, Martin, we understood this is the mission, the path. So this is the solution I'm proposing. And as an organization, Globant is very open to understand what's going on, to listen to those thousands of people that every day are telling us what to do and what not to do. And the beautiful part about leading an organization is that you don't need to tell people what to do. You only need to tell people where to go and which is the vision. And then the rest gets sorted out. So we choose at Globant to be a company that set the vision first, set the purpose first, and we love to listen which are the reactions of our people. You know, one day, I remember, I had a meeting with a very good friend at Google. I never talk about this in an interview. He said, hey, Martin, I have a hard stop at 2 because I need to go to an AR training course. Oh, really? Okay, but did you choose to do AI? No. We didn't choose to do AI. It's mandatory. I mean, if you are at Google, you need to go to train about AI. Oh, really? I listen. I get back to the office. And I said to the whole organization, from now on, I want 100%. And when I say 100%, I say 100%. From the most sophisticated engineer to the most entry-level whatever, I want everyone to learn the rudiments of AI for 2 reasons. First, because we want to apply them with customers. And second, because we want to apply it for everything we do at Globant. That was my statement. Simple. Honestly, I was not expecting to get what I got, which was like a massive reaction of the organization, not just embracing the idea, but starting to come back with ideas about how to do things. I remember one day a guy showed up in my office and said, hey, Martin, I have a wild idea about creating code using AI. I said, wow, today is a very simple thing. Everybody knows about that. 7 years ago, nobody even thought about that. I said, oh, really? Okay, tell me. So the guy started to explain to me. In 2019, we filed for a patent that got awarded in September 2020 for augmented coding, which is generating code using AI 3 years earlier than Copilot appeared. Those things are like miracles that happen when people has the right vision, is aligned in the right manner, and when the pyramid is inverted. When me as a CEO, I know that I work for them and not the other way around. And I think that's extremely valuable. But again, setting a vision is something that is top of my everyday, to-do list.
So Globant vision, if you look at the history, where it is today and where it's going, how did it change from the moment that you started the company to the moment where we're going through this AI revolution that is clearly affecting any single enterprise in the world? What's with the vision?
Well, the vision of Globant keeps on being pretty much the same. I believe this industry has been the same for the last 70 years. And the opportunity that we have is to change everything, including how we use AI, including how we organize a company, including how we treat our people, including how we connect our people, including how we take care of our culture. My vision is very simple. Globant is a huge lab where we try things and we experiment with different ways of doing things, and we honor that every day. And that is connected then to growing, that is connected to having satisfied customers, that is connected to having very motivated people inside Globant, and that is connected to everything that Globant represents. But first comes the vision, and then the rest. And of course, to execute that vision, you cannot lack discipline. Discipline on the numbers, discipline on how we execute, discipline on how we deliver to our customers, how we measure if they are happy or not. So the vision will keep on being the same. Now, when you include the AI in this vision, you will get like a different approach, because okay, many of the things that we were doing can now be accelerated, augmented using AI. There's some others that we want. For example, if we are interacting today, nobody will replace our interaction.
Hopefully.
But, and we may take decisions. I may understand your needs. You may understand mine. We may, put that on a document. We may create something that then I share to you. Is this what you want? Let's say you're a customer. Is this what you want? And then you come back, say, yeah, well, yes, but this is okay. And then we start to build it. And then how much of that time is coding? It's about 30%. So on that coding piece, of course, we will get much faster. If you're a good engineer, by the way, if you're not a good engineer, you are totally screwed up, because you will start to navigate through places that you don't know. And then you end up creating a solution, which is pretty bad, by the way. We experimented that too. So I believe AI will accelerate a lot. AI is kind of a plug into your brain for you to start creating things in a much faster way. AI is an extremely good performance tool, like many hundreds of tools we have had in the past where productivity is gained. Is not necessarily a competent tool. It may create a great text about something, but it doesn't necessarily understand
the context,
the concept of what it's writing, it's producing. So that's something that we need to understand. There's so many people talking stupid things about, the world will end because, come on, man, we still can turn off the computers and end of discussion if we don't want them. So I think there's a little bit of hype, but it's an extremely useful tool that is changing the way we are thinking about projects. They're changing the way our customers are thinking about how to create needs. And the most important part, which is a tool that is increasing the expectations phenomenally on what we can expect from a computer. And now millions and millions of people know that you can expect a computer to talk to you in a human-friendly way, instead of just in an app creating transactions and following steps.
And basically save a lot of psychotherapy.
Exactly. So what? Correct. I was talking seriously, and you want.
The problem in New York, everybody has a psychotherapy. Now you can just talk to ChatGPT.
Exactly right. Well, those guys will have a problem. So, no, but I believe that expectations will grow, exponentially, and people, every single CEO, and 100% of the people using technology from the brands they love, now understood that what they can expect from those brands. Now it's about to deliver that. It's taking the expectations levels and the ambition level to the next level. And that's why I think it's so incredible for a company like Globant that is ready to navigate that wave. All the things that are happening. The only constant that we learn is that technology will surprise you, no matter when.
So productivity. And I think that's something that you were talking with CEO of GitHub. and this incredible interview that was streamed on your channel on YouTube. And I think you mentioned that the last time the humanity actually gained, improved or increased the gains in productivity was in the internet era. And chances are that we will see major improvements as a result of all these advances in AI. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? And where do you think the improvements will be happening the most?
When I was about to enter into the university, that was 1986, internet was just about to be created. So in the 1990, in 87, I got the first computers. So I connected to the internet around 89, 90, right? I got connected at that time, which was very bad. It was a very slow modem. But it was very clear to everyone that whenever that technology scaled up, and that was the bubble of 2000, it would create huge gains on productivity. And not just that, but a lot of new businesses around that period. And that was like a very important moment in the history of technology. But then some other thing happened, which was for me extremely important, which was the creation of the social networks, right? And everything that is connected to that, mobile phones, better mobile phones, easier ways to access those social networks. Social networks kept on evolving until a new technology showed up, which was what? Web 3.0. Web 3.0 for the first time is saying, okay, software and hardware, we got divorced. Now I can run software without the need of hardware. I mean, it's not without the need, but having hardware distributed among thousands of or hundreds of thousands of machines. That yield crypto, NFTs, so on and so forth. But the most important thing is that we can transact without having nobody in the middle. Massive philosophical change, right? AI was dormant all the way since 1960 up to 2014 was kind of in a pretty large winter until neural networks started to hit, until transformers in 2017 started to be developed, so on and so forth. Transformers is what we are using today to do generative AI, and not just for text. Transformers also work for other, domains like videos, or they're not just exactly transformers, but the concept is similar. So what you have is a technology that was very old. It gets like a hype, another, like an unlocking moment. Everybody say, wow, AI was not bullshit. It was real, like any other technology. So I think, look, in all this, and I would start, let's say, with a calculator in 1970s. We got a lot of new productivity and spreadsheets, so on and so forth. Engineers become much more productive, but we still needed the engineers. For example, to develop a game 10 years ago, it would take you, let's say, 12 engineers for 6 months to create something pretty decent, right? Something that right now, using Unity, can be created in one evening by one engineer, right? But which are the expectations of a game today as opposed to a game 10 years ago? Much higher, right? So creating a game today is like a totally different thing, even when you use higher productivity gains. So what we see in the past with any kind of productivity gain tool is that it didn't change what we needed to do, but the expectations about what we want to do are much higher. And this won't be the exception. As I said before, what we want to create will be much higher, much bigger, broader, more smart, more emotionally connected with consumers. So I may imagine a world in which, apps will start to go down and conversational channels will start to go up. Well, you will be talking with robots or with bot channels that will be so smart. And it's not just to have a text like we have today with ChatGPT, but to do transactions. to do actual transactions. We have a pattern that we feel, again, we have been thinking about this for a long time. So in 2017, we filed a patent for what we call semantic banking. Basically, it was a bank that was just a piece of text, just a text box like Google, and you said, "Oh, pay my Visa." Boom, ready, Martin. Oh, I want to see my balance. This is your balance, and you just typed, and the bank was answering to you. We are about to launch a bank supported with that technology in Spain. So, but I think conversations will be much more meaningful than before. AI will have a huge impact, not just on how we produce software or how we test, but also on how we interact with computers, how we interact with the brands we love. So this is the impact, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years will be the most interesting part, the most interesting time for technology we have ever seen.
So AI, Paul Graham, the YC founder, he said something that got me thinking that the companies that will truly benefit from AI are not AI companies. Those are the companies that have been around for a while. And I was wondering, what do you think? Like, if you look at the grand scheme of things for the next decade, what are the industries or type of companies that would benefit the most from continuous proliferation of AI, and those that would suffer the most?
That's a very difficult question, Olga. But listen, the logical answer to that question is those companies that are interacting with millions of consumers has a new channel to interact in a much more human way, in a much more emotional way than before. Either they use it or they not. If they use it, they win. If they don't use it, they lose. Period. Connecting with consumers. You choose the industry, whatever. But AI won't stop on generative AI. That's another big confusion. I mean, generative AI is like one kind of instance of the class AI. AI could be a system predicting your credit record or predicting, things with numerical answers, saying, okay, which is the probability of Martin if he gets a credit not to pay? Okay, we'll give you a number, right? Those things are also AI because there are also things that get trained based on millions and millions of use cases of that same thing. The finance industry, I think, has both, has how to connect with consumers and how to use AI to predict many of the things they need to do. The CPG industry has a lot to do with how to connect with consumers better, how to trace better their products. The media and entertainment will have a huge impact in terms of how to produce things, how to distribute things. I think that hard industries that maybe won't get that disrupted by this will be, let's say, the oil and gas. But when you see oil and gas on the main business, but how to serve within the oil and gas industry, all the things that they do will have a big impact on AI, how to make research about where to drill a new hole, to find oil, so on and so forth, which are things that are already being affected by AI. So I think AI will pretty much involve every single industry. There's not a single industry that can claim, I don't want to use it, I don't care, and the effects will be the same for my customers.
Going back to Globant, you mentioned that the vision, it's a big innovation lab, basically. Experimentation lab. Several questions in this respect. And the first question would be how that translates into corporate culture.
First, let's try to define the meaning of a corporate culture. Corporate culture for me is an imitation game. So I come here, I see what's around, I hear what you're doing, and I try to behave in the way you expect me to behave. That's a portion of culture. But which culture? The culture of here, right? Well, the same happens in a company. When you arrive in a company, you see your surroundings and you see how people behave. and you try to behave kind of in the same way, and you want to innovate in certain things, and that's fine. But you try to follow the same values of that specific place. There's a great piece of there's a video called Brain Games. This is like a small TV show, and the brain game had like a different brain challenges. And one brain game that I saw really illustrated a concept that is extremely important. There was 5 people trained waiting for the doctor. 5 people that got trained that each time they listen to a beep, they need to stand up. So beep, and so they stand up, and then they sit down, right? So the doctor started to call, and then new people started to enter. So when the new people started to enter, they heard the beep, and at the first time they didn't stand up, but all the other 4 guys stood up. On the second beep, they didn't stand up, but the other 4 stood up. On the third beep, all of them stood up. The 4 trained people got attended by the doctor, and 4 new guys entered from the street. Guess what was happening? Every single beep, no matter what, everybody was standing up and sitting down. Nobody trained these guys, but these guys connected with the culture of that doctor place that says that when the beep sounds, everybody needed to stand up. And that was the brain game. When I saw that, I said, this is a company culture. You do what you see. And you try to imitate, not to fall out of your team, basically. What we did at Globant was exactly that. Given that it's an imitation game, we provided each employee with 5 stars at the very beginning. Now it's 20 stars. To give to any other employee for something unique that has been done connected to our values. Very simple values. Think big, constantly innovate, aim to excellence, have fun, be a team player, and 1 or 2 more. So those are 5, 6 values that we have as a company, and we have the whole company celebrating when those things happen. We started with that project about 12 years ago. Today, about 30,000 stars are being given any given day at Globant, creating a perfect map of the culture, a perfect map of who's engaged, who's not, a perfect map who's making the difference for us in front of our customers, a perfect map about who's about to leave the organization. Every time I arrive to a location, Olga, to a new location, I pick up my Star Me app, I choose that location, and I see the top 10. I don't care who they are. I don't care which the position in the company, but I call them because I know those 10 guys are making the difference for Globant in that specific office. So, in essence, we know the meaning of culture, and we use technology to accelerate that culture across the whole organization, which is an excellent tool when you're growing, because when you're growing, sometimes you don't know the new people. They don't have the chance, and we don't have the chance to talk to them. But yes, we have the chance to connect and for the newcomers to get recognized with Start Me Up, with the tool that we use. This is like our social operating system. And by the way, those stars don't represent money. It's just prestige, which is very unique too. So it doesn't matter how many stars you have. It won't represent like a larger bonus for you. But maybe we'll take you into account whenever we need to make the next, pushing you down towards the pyramid.
How do you think about failure? Again, going back to the vision for Globant, it's an innovation lab. Part of innovations is failure. So how do you think about failures?
Everyone knows when we do something good, and we celebrate that. But not everybody knows when we do something bad. And there has been hundreds of instances in which we failed. People don't like to celebrate failures, but we know that it's part of innovating. And when you innovate, just as a general rule, 90% of innovations don't go anywhere, but just 10% yes. But if you want to get that 10%, you need to respect the other 90. And people don't get punished for innovating at Globant. I think that bringing ideas is extremely important. I would say that part of the attitude we are looking for our Globers is exactly that. The attitude that we don't like is when they try to maintain the status quo and get hidden behind a rock. So we tend to be hard on those situations rather than on those that are trying to innovate and fail. And sometimes it costs a lot of money for the company, but I think it's the name of the game. Otherwise, we would have never found those tools that we use, these kind of bright ideas. And again, the culture as Globant is that when you enter Globant, you need to be sure that we are in an innovation lab. Whatever idea you want to bring to the table that is not being done by the rest is welcome to this table.
Do you have any system of prioritization of ideas? I imagine that in a culture
No.
like that, you have tons of great ideas coming your way.
There's not. They flow naturally. Some of them, they never reach. The ones they reach, we pay attention. You know what we did for AI? It was funny. We create kind of a shark tank inside Globant. So I took some other sharks and we put them in a single meeting room, and we tell our people, just innovate using AI for new stuff. You know, the amount of ideas that came to it. And a team started to filter them and started to boiling down to, I think we analyzed like 36 in the final Shark Tank. And we got two as the winners, but the others were extremely good. But we're all the time playing. We proposed to the open market a price of $200,000 for innovating on how to use AI to solve any kind of your business problem. We received 25,000 ideas.
Who
from
won?
Everywhere in the world. We still don't know. We're still processing those things. So Globant is a lot about that. It's a lot about, if there's a contest around that, then ideas start to flow. So we are constantly generating those moments of, I would say, selection rather than have like a continuous process. But if I receive an email from a Glober saying, hey, Martin, I have this idea, so on and so forth, I will analyze it, very, very fast. I would say no or yes very fast too. They say, no, I don't like it. Or yeah, let's do it.
So I want to touch a little bit on you. Like, you've been CEO of Globant since day zero. So from zero,
Kind of,
to one to post IPO. And it feels like that Globant is still haven't fully realized its potential. It's still like a growing company versus like mature incumbents. What do you think makes you so good at staying relevant for the company's journey?
Hey, to the audience, this is not beer, right?
This is
water.
Totally water.
Totally water.
Totally
Fine.
water.
It looks like beer. That's why I was...
I know. It's totally water, which will hopefully go public on New York Stock Exchange very soon. But going back to the question about you, how do you stay relevant? Majority of the founders, they lose their relevancy to the company and they're being substituted by professional management. Why it's not the case in your case?
Well, it is. Why you're saying it's not? It is. The thing is we are trying to do something that is very long term. And when you do things long term, you need teams that are focused on that and that really understand that message long term. And Globant has 4 founders, which are still working in the company, which is very unique. Each of us
Martin, another Martin, right?
Yes.
Gilbert, Nestor.
Yes.
And you.
And myself. So we are 4 founders. We're still working in the company, each of us doing different things. I'm a big believer that staying relevant is about how passionate you are about an idea. So that passion is still intact. And I'm totally convinced, like, as you said, we're still scratching the surface of what can be done as a company. And people want to belong to these stories. But you don't need to get confused. The fact that we are working in the company doesn't mean that there's a massive professional team running Globant every day. And the only reason why we're successful is that team. But the most important part is that things are happening with a lot of autonomy on the edges of the organization. And that's the important part. That's when one person being relevant is less important than ever. So I believe in organizations in which it doesn't matter if Martin is alive or not, they will keep on doing exactly the same. They will keep on innovating because this is the culture we are creating. As far as I can add value, I will be there. When I think that I'm bored and there's no more passion, I will go home. I mean, everybody asks me, hey, Martin, you're still working after so many years. You don't need to work any longer. No, I don't need to work any longer. I know. But I enjoy it so much. And the amount of passion I get from doing what I do every morning, from waking up and understanding that we need to change something, that we need to recruit someone, that we need to win from one of our competitors a proposal, that we need to grow, that we need to maintain, that we need to change the status quo, that we need to change lives of thousands of people all around the world. That turns me on. And that puts me in a very interesting mood in terms of execution. And Globant has a very intense management team, extremely intense management team. You don't want to be there, basically. A very intense management team. And they all think exactly, of course, everybody thinks differently, but we all have the same vision, the same mission. So I'm so proud, Olga. I cannot tell you how proud I am about the team that we put it together, the caliber of the people. My COO is a lady, is Pato. I strongly suggest you interview her one day. She's a killer. She's absolutely right. Extremely intense in terms of execution, in terms of understanding where we want to go, where she wants to go. Big passionate about being kind with the planet, with the humankind, with the peers, with yourself. She's a big muscle, a big brain inside Globant. But we have many others. So I don't think it's that important that Martin stays relevant. The most important thing is that the culture of the company needs to stay relevant. And then, of course, I'm doing my best, and I read a lot. I train my brain a lot to be on that specific position, challenging everything all the time, which sometimes can be tough.
That partnership that started in 2003, right? How did you scale that partnership? How did you make it work? And by you, I'm not meaning just you, Martin, but 4 of you that are still involved in the company. How did you make it work?
Look, it's very unique. The 4 of us are absolutely different. And I would say that if you're starting a business, please start a business with people, first, that is different from you. And second, if you can, if they are your friends, much better. But if they are not different, then you start to overlap in many different ways. And I would say that the worst enemy when you are growing a company like Globant that has been so successful is the ego. Is my ego against my co-founder's ego. And how to manage that, I think it's a miracle. It's a miracle.
That is not a practical tip.
It's not a practical tip. And honestly, why I'm saying it's a miracle is because I don't see that very often.
It doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So when I go back and say, basically, I would say that in many, many different instances and moments, we managed to behave as a team, to put our ego away, and to do what is best for the company. And to be able to come back after those heavy decisions and say, let's go on holidays together. And then we forget about everything and we start the next morning all over again. It's like that. for me, it's a very good partnership. I'm very proud. I will never say it's easy. It takes time, it takes effort, but I think it's worthy.
Do you have mentors? You are an active mentor. You are part of Endeavor. You're on board of Endeavor Argentina. Yes. So who are your mentors?
I've had many mentors in my career, and from those that when I was thinking about the idea, I got to consult. And I remember one specific person, and I said to him, listen, I want to do this, and this is my idea about the Argentinian talent, and we want to create technology and compete with all the countries that are doing so. And he looked at me and said, Martin, you're crazy. This is impossible. Argentinian people don't have the discipline, engineers don't have the knowledge, so on and so forth, so on. He was a mentor too. Because at that time, I got scared. I said, wow, if this guy is telling me this, how can I keep on thinking? But entrepreneurs, we need to do things independently on the amount of noise you have outside. And every time and every step forward we did, right now, it's a long time ago, so I already forgot, but you're asking me. But every step we did at the very beginning of the company was saying, just to demonstrate to this guy that he was wrong. Okay? Boom, boom, boom. But then I have many other mentors from great entrepreneurs, like, for example, Michael Marks, which is the founder of Flextronics, a big electronic manufacturer. Michael is one of the best managers that I have ever met in my life, and founders. He was, for a short period of time, he was the CEO of Tesla. And then I met some of the Google founders. I met the LinkedIn founder. And I got, I would say, a lot of inspiration from the Endeavor network. The Endeavor network for us was like the big network of contention. Those that ¿cómo se dice? Equilibristas, whatever. So this is a place in which we have learned a lot. We have augmented our aspirations, dreamed much bigger than before. It was a place that basically convinced us that creating a world-class organization was absolutely possible, and it was not just a stupid dream. So I would put Endeavor as one more mentor of my career, not just individuals, but a mentor in which I got that inspiration to keep going. And we participated on the first Catalyst investment that Reid Hoffman put some money. So we received the first investment in the history of Endeavor. A lot of talks with Linda, a lot of talks with Edgar Brofman, a lot of talks with Wences, Casares, a lot of talks with Marco Galperin that we follow. We're extremely good friends with company. Wences too. Very good friends, but those are the people that you see executing and thinking, and you clearly notice very fast that they're different people.
What makes Endeavor so special? There are many network of entrepreneurs, but what makes specifically Endeavor so impactful?
I think that Endeavor is the place where you come up or you show up thinking small and you leave thinking big. And that's the most powerful thing that Endeavor has. Endeavor has that kind of magic of those micro moments of inspiration. Sometimes, I remember a very, very short story. That was back in 2009 or 10. We received an offer to sell the company. And we were at Endeavor ISP somewhere, I don't know. I think it was in Miami. And a professor from Harvard that we ended up being friends because we were hanging out, just drinking beers. And we said, hey, we need to talk to you. Okay, let's talk. So we sit down on the beach and we said to him, listen, This is Globant. This is how we're growing. This is how much money we're doing in revenues. These are our customers. And by the way, just received an offer to sell the company for like $40 million. For at that time, that was like still it's a lot of money, but at that time for us it was. And the guy started to discuss with us and suddenly say, "Well, why you want to sell?" "No, we don't want to sell, but we have an offer, so we need to do something about it." "Well, look, your business is growing, you're making money, you have no risk to be out of business because you are well financed. So why you will sell?" So we start looking each other, saying, "Yeah, what?" So we ended up not selling. And we ended up taking an investment. But that happened totally unexpected in an Endeavor event somewhere in Miami. So I would say that Endeavor is that engine that provides you inspiration in the right moment. And there's not anything that is planned, like say, "Oh yeah, well," no, it sometimes are talking to those specific, special people in the right moment to take the right decision or to take the wrong decision. Sometimes when people comes to consult, they say, "Hey, Martin, what I should do?" I say, "Listen, the first thing I would say is disclaimer, huge disclaimer. I am not responsible of the outcomes of what I say. So be careful. Now let's talk." And then I start
Take
talking
it with a
without
grain
any-
of salt.
Exactly
Right?
right. Exactly right. So anyway, no, but yeah, I think there are some magical places, but Endeavor is one of them.
What's your take on Endeavor's future?
I think it's bright. And the reason why it's bright is because it's a self-sustained, for the first time, self-sustained nonprofit foundation that is doing the right thing in the right place. Basically, taking care of entrepreneurs to think really big and to take their companies to the next level and to get a huge impact on their communities. So from the perspective of charity, I don't know any other institution that is that leveraged in terms of impact of employment creation, wealth creation, countries reinvention, so on and so forth. So I think that what Linda and Edgar are doing now about taking Endeavor, to as many countries as possible, is really remarkable. I think what Linda is doing too about self-sustaining, following professional investors that invest on Endeavor entrepreneurs and putting small tickets, which the returns of that will pay back to Endeavor to keep up, the growth and sustaining the foundation is very unique. I haven't seen that in any other nonprofit foundation. So that's why I think the future is right.
I'll ask one more question before we move to the rapid fire. And the question is about Globant again. There's certain things that you invented on the org design, right? The pod is one of them.
Yeah.
What do you think are those things that are transferable to other enterprises? What other enterprises can learn from the way you build and you scale and you run Globant today?
Well, look, you mentioned the pods, but I will be a little bit more specific on that. When you mentioned the pods, and I talked about the autonomy of those pods, well, let me tell you the story of how a pod is formed. When a pod is formed, they need to get together, they need to create a name, they need to write a constitution where they will create the mission, the vision, they will create the roles. For example, who's the entrepreneur inside the pod? Who's a professor? Who's the accountant? Who's going to be the innovator? Who's going to be the guy that will take care of the wellness inside the pod? They will decide things like where to work from. They will decide things about which is the mission of the pod. They will decide promotions. They will decide who belongs to the pod, who doesn't belong to the pod. They will decide an enormous amount of things that is connected to playing a game of maturity of that pod. That pod goes into maturity 0 when it gets formed, gets into maturity 1 when they have the constitution signed and the members allowed, get into maturity number 2 when they have their own metrics and the baseline, maturity 3 when they have been able to improve their own metrics. That game, We call it Agile Path Methodology. It's a game that we're creating not just for us. I mean, we have a studio inside Globant that is bringing that knowledge to many other corporations that needs to create software in a very agile manner. And not just that, but in a very autonomous manner. So where decisions are fast, are hundreds being taken by the people in front of a problem instead of a manager that is hundreds of kilometers away of a problem. So this is one big contribution to the humankind, I would say, and how to create software in a much better way. We wrote a book around that specific process. I think that also how we're using AI to do recruiting in a much better way, to do staffing. You know, one of the largest problems we have is how to connect 28,000 people with the right project in the right moments, right? And that's the largest nightmare that anybody that is doing professional services have. Well, we are using AI to bring the perfect candidates for that specific, for each of the positions, or the perfect teams for that specific task, which is a technology that nobody else is having. So that's another collaboration we are doing to the community. I think that also another big asset that we are contributing is our Be Kind program that hopefully is being copied by many companies. But our Be Kind program has like 4 different angles. The first one is be kind to yourself. So basically, is take care of your body, right, and your mind. And this is very important, and we have a lot of elements connected to be kind to yourself. The second element is be kind to the planet, which means, okay, let's be carbon neutral. Globant is already carbon neutral, consumes 100% of renewable energy, but we're willing also to cover the carbon footprint of our people. So it's not just the payment, the compensation that we pay for the work, but also we want to pay like environmental salary, like it's the compensation for the impact you create in the planet. So we're thinking about those kind of ideas inside Be Kind with the Planet. Let's be kind with your peers, which is all the diversity and inclusion initiatives that we have. You know, the prize Women That Build award. So this is another important program which we are trying to recognize unique women around the world that are creating an impact, sometimes in many different categories. Maybe a category of moms that wants to come back to their professional careers and pulling them and saying, this is a great example of things that could happen. Everything because in the industry, we have 70% men, 30% women as an overall. So we need to fix it. So this is our answer to fix that, not just, of course, hiring more ladies. The training programs we do is 80% ladies, 20% for men, because we already have enough men. So there's a big change and big effort we are doing to be kind with your peers. And last but not least is be kind with the humankind. On these days of having AI everywhere, I think it's vital to understand what we do with AI, what do we avoid with AI. And all those things are summarized on what we call an AI manifesto. Our AI manifesto is an AI set of rules that Globant will follow so we don't have a negative impact in the world. So those things are things that there are like frameworks that we are letting the world to understand how to have like a unified vision to tackle some of the largest problems we have today in the world. And that really creates like a very nice atmosphere inside Globant, but also create that many others are adopting those ideas. On top of that, we have platforms for a lot of things like GenX for creating systems from attacks. So I need to create a system for administering my podcast. So you type that and everything will come up. So use it. GenX. So go to GenXus Next and you will get into there. You will create a system in 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Then we have Augur, which is a platform that will accelerate the way you understand code. So let's say that you have piles of code that has been piling up for the last decade. and suddenly many of the contributors of that code are not any longer, and you still need to fix a bug or make a change. Well, a Google will take you which are the modules you need to touch, which are the dependencies that you need to play with to be able to fix that. Is kind of a waste of a code, right? That's our platform for that, again, can be consumed by anyone. Our platform for augmented coding or augmented map coding. There are hundreds of initiatives, Olga. Hundreds.
There's a whole ecosystem.
Yes.
Last question before rapid fire. We started the conversation from that, from LatAm to the world.
Correct.
I'm absolutely fascinated with the potential of companies that were born in Latin America to transform global markets. At the same time, there are very few companies that up to date do that, right? Globant is one of them. What do you think needs to be done or could be done to support and to encourage more entrepreneurs actually build global companies?
That's a very interesting question. To support global entrepreneurship, it's a lot about inspiring. It's a lot about telling your story, understanding that sometimes when you are building something big, the people that look at you say, no, these guys are
Crazy.
from another planet. They're not from planet Earth. And that's not true. So talking about your case, thinking about how to inspire and be close to those entrepreneurs, for me, is extremely important. Setting them up in the right intensity that is needed to create a global organization, marking when those global aspirations are not being pursued, but instead local or thinking small attitudes are being discovered. But listen, the other day I was at the Endeavor conference that we do in Buenos Aires. At one point, I was listening to one of the persons that was speaking, and so I started looking around as a board member, saying, "Wow, this is amazing." Well, like 5,000 people in a single room at 6 p.m. in the evening, listening to what someone that was speaking had to say, and looking for inspiration. And that was magical, because every single person inside that room are not there because they don't have anything else to do. They are there because they want to get inspired and they want to think big. And one guy, when the thing finished, came to me and said, "Listen, Martin, it happens always the same. When I came in very negative, very frustrated with the current situation of the country, of my company, so on and so forth. When I come out like a totally different person, like a totally renewed in terms of energy, totally renewed in terms of hope." And those are the things that really makes a change. So whenever you are successful, or whatever you define as success, because everybody defines success as a different way, telling your story, inspiring others on how to do it, but also on the risks, because sometimes they won't be successful, but they will need to try harder and they will need to try again. So making that cycle and being aware of that virtuous cycle that happens, I think is the most important single success factor to inspire and to have more global companies.
That's incredible. Let's aim into that. I'd love to move to the rapid fire. I'm going to ask you 5 short questions.
Oh, no.
And I'll appreciate
Can
your
I quit?
immediate response.
Can I quit?
There's no.
I don't like short answers.
No, I'm going to
let's
ask
do
you
the
short.
following.
I'm going to ask you short questions. You
Okay.
can give long answers. How about that?
You ask me whatever you want. I answer whatever I want.
I feel like that's the general vibe of today's conversation.
Yeah.
What's one piece of content every founder should read and why?
Daniel Pink and a book called Drive is one that really inspired me a lot about how to understand or how to motivate people. And it talks about money is not what makes people do the last mile, but the sense of belonging to a great team, the sense of autonomy is extremely important. But the most important part is the purpose of what you're trying to build. So those 3 elements, at Globant has always been extremely present. And I think that's a great piece of reading.
Is there any popular entrepreneurial advice that you strongly agree or disagree with?
Yes, I believe on talent created as a result of strong effort. I don't believe in genetical talent. I would say this is one of the most counterintuitive piece of thinking that I got from a book called Talent is Overrated, which, by the way, I love it.
Yeah.
In which we basically need to acknowledge that everyone is capable of doing pretty much anything as long as that person wants to really do it. And that's what we call, in a shortcut, talent, which is not real. It's not genetical. It's strongly affected by the amount of effort, practice, and dedication that you put into something.
If you were to become a CEO of any other company from Latin America or globally for a day, what would that company be and what would you like to know?
That's really hard. I don't imagine myself being a CEO of any other company. That's a big problem. Let me think. I met the other day a founder of a company called Boom. Boom is doing a supersonic plane. I love planes. And these guys are doing a supersonic plane. But the funny thing is that the guy started the company being an engineer, but not being an aeronautical engineer, having no experience from building planes. And he managed to recruit some of the most amazing talent how to build planes. And his story really strikes me because this is one of the things that you say, okay, if you don't have the experience, you cannot do it. If you don't have the whatever. And he was able to do it. And he's a little bit delayed, but he's about to make it in the coming years to have a commercial supersonic jet that will replace and be much better, much more efficient than the Concorde. But those are the kind of, moonshots that I like when I see companies, the ones that I would be happy to be a CEO for one day. Like those companies that are trying to make something so huge that could affect the course of the history. There are many others, some others in which I invest that I would love, but that one would be one. And then everything that is happening on the AI space that we're living very, very close. And everything that is happening on the quantum computing space, which is extremely interesting. That's another moonshot in terms of how to change the world. But building supersonic jets, maybe SpaceX would be another company I would love to be there for one day to learn, to learn. And I don't know, Olga, very difficult question, I would say.
If you could have one gigantic billboard on Times Square with anything on it, basically your personal message to the universe, what would it say?
Don't give up trying to change the world in the way you want it. Never. And dream absolutely big connected to that. And that's an endless mission that will never be achieved because there's always something more to change. But it's a direction that many people can join. Have fun.
Have fun
in
doing
the
that.
meantime, doing that.
If you were an alcoholic beverage, what beverage would you be and why? The one that reflects your personality.
Well, it doesn't exist.
Best answer I ever got to this question.
It doesn't exist. You have nothing with such an intensity
So not shot at
that
tequila.
at the same time cannot kill you, right? So the closest would be like a good scotch mixed with a vermouth.
Ooh, okay.
And or an elegant French wine, a Burgundy, like a Romane Conti, the most expensive one. And of course, I like wine. Wine is my favorite drink in the planet, and the French wine especially, and the Burgundis and everything that is connected to that. But that's what I like. It's not exactly how I would describe myself.
I love French wine as well. I studied wine.
Oh, really?
Yes, I
Have you
love
seen
wine.
the drops of God?
Yes, of course.
TV series?
Yeah, and I went to Napa Valley Wine Academy to
Oh, really?
study wine. Yeah,
That's
I could work as sommelier if I fail as a podcaster.
amazing.
I can totally work
It's
as a
always good to have
sommelier
a B plan,
in
a
the.
plan B.
Martin, thank you so much for your time. I didn't follow a single question I put on the script, which I think made this conversation so unbelievably insightful and genuine. Thank you for your time, and
Thank you, Olga.
really, really appreciate that.
Thank you, Olga. I enjoyed it too. And thank you very much for the kind questions.